Hello, welcome to Starview. My name is Sharrie. I am an author, astrologer, and a specialist in shadow work.
My name is April, and I'm an artist. I'm also a witch and an astrologer.
Hi, my name's Kim Green. I'm a marriage and family therapist, and I'm also an astrologer.
Hi, I'm Sharon, wealth coach, and I enjoy astrology. Here's our insights on this chart.
Okay. This is King Charles's chart. We're going to discuss his chart and share our insights. Well, to start, he is a Leo ascendant, so fitting for a king. And his sun is in the 4th house, which is in Scorpio, which is very telling for what he is.
The 4th house is big with family and very loyal, I think, especially in the sign of Scorpio. I think, pretty deep and loyal, very strong roots. With a lot of those Scorpio houses, and Scorpio planets, the Sun, the Mercury, and the South Node, and
yeah, South
Chiron.
Node. That's interesting that South Node is there because that's part of his past life that comes from his family or his maternal lineage.
And literally in the 4th house.
Literally,
Very
and
strong.
the ruler
Yeah.
Pluto is in his 1st house in Leo. So extremely fitting for a king or a prince.
Yeah, definitely born into a house of power.
For sure.
Right.
And that Pluto is squaring the sun. That's an interesting, he doesn't have too many square, he only has 1 square and 1 opposition in his chart. The rest are favorable.
Right. A lot of trines and sextiles.
And he has a grand Earth trine.
And I don't know why your software doesn't show it, but he's also got a kite.
It is a kite. It's just very faint.
I mean, up here between like that Jupiter, the Jupiter-Uranus opposition at the anaretic degree, the moon sextile to that Uranus, as well as Saturn. I don't know why the Saturn's not showing sextile, because that is unless the software only does 5-degree orb.
It does 5-degree orb. Maybe that's why. And this would be an out of.
That's the first thing that jumped out at me, was that Jupiter-Uranus opposition at 29 degrees.
Yeah, it's probably because it's a 5-degree orb, and it's out of sign. It would need to be in Leo, I guess. Wouldn't that be correct? Anyway, my brain is not thinking along those lines.
Well, 29 Gemini would be right at 0 Capricorn. So, I mean, that's where so yeah, it's right off the sign, but it's still technically, I see it as that.
Yeah, it is a sextile, but it's a wide sextile.
I see.
Yeah.
It's interesting that he has Jupiter at 29 degrees in the 5th house.
Yes.
That is the, this archetype is a sign of Leo with Pluto, and that's his ascendant again. And it's not only his ascendant, but it's also the 2nd house. So he has 2 houses with Leo on the cusp. And it just seems really he's probably a lot more expressive than we think than we know him to be, maybe.
And he has Mars there, which also gives him a lot of ambition and drive around whatever he's passionate about. And Jupiter exaggerates that passion and drive. Right. I don't know if you guys saw the Netflix special on The Crown, but they did portray him that way, where he really wanted to be the king. And you could understand why his mom wouldn't step down and give him that chance. And he had a lot of things that he wanted to put in place that he felt held back from being able to do.
Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah, considering that he has the moon conjunct the North Node,
Mhm.
And that because I didn't know that about him, but I figured that there was an element to his mom and his legacy, and I couldn't tell whether or not it was an easy Passover or not. And so that's interesting.
Yeah, he was really frustrated with her, especially when he was in his prime, and she just wasn't ready to give it to him. So
All
at least
right.
that's how he was portrayed in the Netflix session.
Ah,
I do find it's interesting. His mom was a Taurus and his moon's Taurus.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And in the 10th house, which means mom definitely had a big impact on his status.
And actually, North Node is what you need to move towards, and
Yeah.
it's what you're
Mhm.
working to attain, and it's in the 10th house with the moon, which also shows that throne that needs to be passed down to his
Right.
mother is part of his lineage that he's here to inherit. And at some point he'll get it, but when? A really long time from the time he was born.
Yeah, apparently. Gosh, and it's interesting that his mom, she's a 0 degree Taurus sun,
Oh,
and his moon is on 0 degree Taurus. That's
That's
so
just,
interesting.
you can't make that up.
I
yeah.
know, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
man.
hey, I did just a little bit of delving today on the Pluto in the first house because he's also got a Pluto Ceres conjunction, which I guess we don't have Ceres in the software here, but
Yeah,
he's got
series.
Ceres at 19 Leo conjunct that Pluto. But which of course Pluto in the first house is like strong first impressions. It was saying his persona is subject to dramatic shifts and phases. Strong brows, which he does have strong eyebrows. Think of how he looks and strong jawline, penetrating eyes. And it said a sense of style that can feature darker colors like red and black. And I found that so interesting that new portrait that he just had done is all red.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
plutonic kind of looking.
And actually,
right. I was thinking about Mars as the traditional ruler of Pluto with that portrait. I was like, so Martian
right.
also.
And Pluto in the first house, very magnetic, and powerful and wealthy. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Very
with the Ceres, on the, I just was reading a little bit on the Ceres Pluto conjunction, and it said that would suggest definitely a very complex emotional landscape, marked by power struggles. And see, Ceres can be mom, so maybe power struggles with mom, control issues, and profound transformations in relationships, particularly with maternal figures. This could just have intense relationships with mom or any primary caregiver. That would be the Ceres in the first house with the Pluto. So that's and it also makes me think of with Princess Diana, Ceres was the mother of his children.
Right.
There was definitely power struggle there.
Yeah.
When she
Good point.
became so famous and
Mhm.
kind of overshadowed him.
Right. It kind of sets the tone for his Scorpio sun, all of this power struggle stuff with the family and just probably placing blame on other people for him not being able to take his power, actually, with that that opposition between the 5th and the 11th house is what I was seeing also.
Yeah. I was thinking also too with the sun in Scorpio in the 4th house, a lot of secrets, things behind
Yes.
the scenes
Oh
that,
yeah.
he's expected to keep these secrets. He's part of his family lineage, his bloodline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Also,
was the other thing I was thinking of secrets. So Black Moon Lilith in the 8th house in Pisces, very secretive.
very, yes. And look at that anaretic degree of Jupiter and Uranus in an opposition.
Yeah.
Sharrie, I'm always thinking about when I think about something, you say it. It's awesome.
What's that? I didn't hear that.
When I think of something, you say it next.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's great. I love it. I love it. Yeah.
I guess we're, connected that way.
Right.
One of the things with that opposition, when I was just kind of doing a little research on just the 29th degree, the anaretic degree, and it was saying like with Uranus, it can make you be ultra conservative. And I just think back, because I grew up, with when he was with Princess Diana, and that they would always say how she overshadowed him so much because he was so stodgy and old fashioned. And that could, and that being the point of his kite, maybe he has to overcome that stodginess, in order, and he has. I mean, especially after her death, it seemed like he became more caring.
But he also had to find a balance between that Jupiter opposing the Uranus, because they're in opposition. And the Jupiter, part of him probably wanted to be passionate and grand and maybe showy in some way, because Mars is there too. And then, like you said, the opposite with that Uranus in the opposing house pulling at him. So he had to find that balance some way, somehow.
That Mars Jupiter, all that makes me think of is, wow, he was probably the ladies' man too.
Probably.
Or thought he was, he used his power in order to attain that.
Its fifth house ruler is Pluto, and it's in the first house, very magnetic.
Yeah.
I don't think he's physically attractive, but
I don't either.
his title makes him attractive.
His title, yeah, I mean, that's kind of attractive.
That's enough for most.
For some.
and it's in trine. It's working very well with that Mars and Jupiter, because there's a trine from Pluto to Mars in the fifth house.
Right.
And look at Chiron. It's right there in Scorpio too.
Yes, I was just thinking about Chiron and that with the secrets that you were talking about.
Yeah, and probably wounds that he has to hold on to, and probably around what he's passionate about, because it's in his fifth house. Maybe he has to hold back on the things that he really wants to express passionately, and he would have that because Jupiter and Mars together in the fifth house. That's some intense energy that wants to be expressed. And with Chiron there, the wounding, maybe he's not allowed to do that, or has not been given the chance to do that.
Yeah.
And maybe too with the mother not allowing him to become
right. He'll never become king if he doesn't do what mother wants him to do. And so that's a giant wound.
Yep. He's expected to just do it.
Hey, just like he married Diana when he was really still in love with Camilla.
Exactly. It's duty. Part of his
right.
And look, Uranus is the ruler of his 7th and 8th house, which makes sense with the divorce, but it also rules his 8th house. And that's an inheritance house. Uranus is at an anaretic degree. So something he needs to overcome that is Aquarian or Uranus in his Uranus. Maybe he needs to step out of the box, be untraditional in some way.
Especially right now that he's a ruler of a country and a world and a time that is going into the age of Aquarius.
Gemini too, yeah. And he needs to do something different. Or monarchy is not going to last if he doesn't anyway.
No, exactly. Exactly.
I don't even think doing something different will make a difference, but you never know.
Right. So maybe he could spill the beans and just go out, with some truth. I don't know.
You mean like about the whole family?
Yeah. It is a wound, apparently. It looks like a wound. And, maybe if he could integrate some of that shadow that, the shadow that comes in being a royal person, the things that you have to take in and the secrets, the traditions and all of that. I think that if he could tell us some of the truth, that might be a little bit different. I don't know if he's too old for that though.
Yeah, I think I think when he was younger, if he had been given the chance, maybe. Now,
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Now it's up to his lineage, his kids to do
Yeah.
that for him.
Yeah. What do you
You
guys
know, that could
think?
be the fifth house, the kids, you know.
Oh, yeah, yeah, the kids, true. And that Jupiter anaretic degree, which also is children. And fifth
Mm-hmm.
house, yeah. What
So you might be onto something there, April, with him speaking out with Uranus being in a Gemini, right? Gemini is really words,
Yeah.
right? And
Right, a
in
lot
the
of
11th
communication,
house
yeah.
of the community, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Good point.
yeah.
An opposing Jupiter. And maybe, like she said, his children, um, or his son, William, would be the one that would need to carry that over. Well, that likely
Right,
will happen. I haven't really looked at his chart as far as that. It looks like it may happen.
right.
What I want
But
to talk about,
there's already talk of the children separating from the, you know, the royal traditions and stuff. I can't remember what and who. That's all I know. I really don't know much about them. So that's why it's interesting to look at their chart.
all right. I mean, I did watch The Crown, and that was the most I learned about them, but I'm not like current with a lot of stuff with them. Yeah, I
Yeah.
keep looking at this Venus, the ruler of the fourth house with Neptune in the fourth house. I'm kind of wondering, I mean, Venus is money and resources. With Neptune, I'm not like getting a good read on that. Or maybe
Well,
something
I
with
feel like
relationships.
arranged marriage maybe
Yeah,
with that.
relationships, yeah.
Well, it's opposite his
Family.
MC,
In family. Uh-huh.
which yeah, that could definitely be that having to get married to somebody you didn't want to.
And you said that he was in love with another woman when he was forced to get married to Diana, and
Mhm.
that Neptune and Venus can be unrequited love.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. And the ruler is Venus on his fourth house cusp with Neptune. Makes complete sense.
It's like everybody in the family knew, but they forced him to do this anyway, possibly.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, with him being diagnosed with cancer, I just took a quick look today at the asteroid Hygeia, which is related to health.
Mhm.
I don't know, can you throw that in there, Sharrie, on your, I know it's at 8 degrees Virgo, which is conjunct to Saturn in the second house.
Is this Hygeia?
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah.
Heck, I don't know what the symbol looks like.
Okay.
But yeah,
It
and one
says
of the
Hygeia,
things
yeah.
that it said about Hygeia in the second house is that you have the possibility of making a fortune off of something in the healthcare industry. And you know, there's been kind of some sort of rumor going around. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to delve into the conspiracy theories, but that the whole thing of him and Kate having cancer right now,
Right.
that all of a sudden there's going to be this big cure of cancer and they're going to, so I
Oh,
don't,
shoot.
I mean, I just heard something to
Yeah.
that effect. But it made me look today because, like I said, this afternoon, I was just trying to think. I said, well, let me see where his Hygeia is. And yeah, but the fact that it's also in Virgo said that like somebody with Virgo, they do take good care of their health in general. You know, they're very cautious about it and eat well or whatever. And with it being in the second house, that they invest money in their health.
Yeah, and second
I
house.
don't know. I found that interesting.
Second house is also the body.
Yeah.
That is.
And you know, it's sextiling his Mercury, which also gives him a very stable way of thinking, like very responsible, and how he'll think about his money and his resources, and even his own self-worth. Saturn too makes you more stable. If you're not in poverty, then it does help at least for you to become more disciplined, stable around your own resources, your own health, and how to manage your money and so forth. And it doesn't have
And
any
old
big
money.
aspects. It only has trines and sextiles, so it's in a good place. Were you saying something, April? I didn't hear.
Oh, just that Saturn in the second house can represent old money.
Yeah, Tradition.
that, the tradition of basically
Mhm.
inheriting it, or just it always being there, a
Right.
consistent source of money or resources.
And it's
Mm,
almost like a duplicated energy here because Saturn rules his sixth house, which is a Virgo house. Saturn is in Virgo.
yeah,
Double.
it's so perfect.
Mhm. So much.
His chart is so perfect.
I know. The other thing I noticed is that his moon is exalted in Taurus. And
Mhm.
I remember in watching that Netflix series, I don't know, it wasn't the series. No, I'm sorry. It was something else I saw before that, where he was very invested in, I think, organic gardening. Definitely gardening. I'm not sure if it was organic, but
Mm,
Taurus is, being with nature, loving nature.
Agriculture.
So I think he's
Mhm.
a nature lover.
that
And
would
he
make
was
sense.
definitely supporting his North Node by doing that. And I believe he was doing it in a way where he, on a public platform, 10th house. Probably, I don't remember necessarily, but because it was made public, it was probably to support agriculture in some way.
Which supports that Saturn being in the second house and Virgo
Yes.
again.
Yeah, yeah. And it's in that grand trine, right?
Right, the Earth trine.
Earth trine,
Right.
except it's
It makes a lot of sense. Except for, yeah, that is just out of sign. But it being in Sagittarius, Jupiter being in Sagittarius is perfect right there. And it's a 29th degree. It just means that it's like a point of mastery, even though it's out of sign for that Earth trine. It's like that's where he's the master at what that is.
yeah,
And it could have probably helped him with his sun, his sun sign shining more. I just feel like that the Scorpio nature, it just kind of, because Scorpio is the opposite of Taurus, and so it probably was just a little bit hard for him to truly access the public image of that Taurian, garden loving, good health guy, because his public image is kind of different.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, what about the 10th house? Ruler is Mars. His chart is so synchronistic.
I
Mars,
know, right?
Jupiter in the fifth house, which is the fifth house, which is the Leo house. I mean, you can't make this up.
Right? Again, it was
Yes.
like he was born to be the king, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's almost like he was C-sectioned at this time, taken out
I
of.
know, right?
Let's get this joint in right now.
Yeah.
And I just remember when I was young, because I used to watch, Prince Charles and Princess Diana were like in the news all the time, and him playing polo, like he would be on the polo
Oh
horse
yeah. Mhm.
and was supposedly very good at it. So
Yeah.
that would be in that fifth house, fun in a Jupiterian, um,
Mm.
playing
Right.
polo.
Don't you have to be pretty fit in order to do polo?
Oh, I
Like,
would
Yeah,
imagine
I
so.
would think, yeah.
yeah,
Imagine.
interesting.
Yeah. Any last thoughts on the chart?
Trying
No?
to remember.
I was kind of curious about the Black Moon Lilith and Pisces in the eighth house. Trying
Yeah,
to pin it
I
down.
was looking at it. I just didn't really get a read on it other than maybe secret moons,
Some sort of
the
taboo.
feminine,
I feel like
the
I
feminine
feel
stuff.
like that
Maybe
is
fear of death.
the possibly the appearance of the occult in his life.
Mm,
Where some of these like secrets and the traditions of the occult, that we talk about, whether or not they have astrologers, and that's occult knowledge.
yeah, for
And
sure.
so I just feel like that Black Moon Lilith there in Pisces in the eighth house is just describing that there's occult knowledge
Mm.
present.
That is secret.
Hmm. Yes. And off somewhere else. It's hidden. It's hidden.
Yeah.
And it's part of fortune. It's in Aquarius, which is
Yeah.
the world, diversity, diverse cultures,
And
sextile to
it's ruled
Jupiter,
by
and
Neptune.
trying the anaretic Gemini over there in Uranus.
And Sharon was saying it's ruled by Neptune, which is true because Look at where
In the
Neptune,
fourth house. Mm.
ancestry line, secrets
Yeah.
on the ancestry line. Makes sense. I was thinking too that the 12th house ruler is the moon, and it's up here with the north node. And the 12th house has a lot to do with your past lives. And he's definitely very tied to his past life. So it's interesting that that moon is in the 10th house with the north node. So it's almost like he's here to, relive that lineage that he's going to inherit.
And
Mhm.
maybe that, because I think, because I have South Node and Scorpio, North Node. I mean, his North Node and South Node are right on mine. Mine are 5 degrees Taurus and Scorpio, but past life, other people's money, in this
Yeah.
life, my money. So
Yeah.
maybe with the Uranus, the anaretic degree over there in the 11th house, part of his sole purpose is to make some sort of change in the monarchy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you're right, Kim, because Scorpio South Node, it's like the money was merged in something where he never worked for it. It was like almost
Right.
physical access to whatever he needed. And this life, he's meant to do things in a material way, to like ground that money and somehow find resources in a physical sense.
Well, maybe make some fortunes off of some sort of healthcare product.
Right, I was gonna say maybe if some kind of invention and he was
Yes.
able to financially back it,
Yeah.
that would be good for us. And if it actually is a cure for something, then it would be a good thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's hard to trust.
I don't know. And then back to that Venus-Neptune conjunction in the 4th.
Mm-hmm.
All I keep thinking about is poor Diana. I mean, because I think she really truly loved him. And
However,
he married her maybe with the Neptunian thing, thinking, oh, it's going to work out.
Right.
And
however, it also can be a romantic combination because with Camilla, they're
Mhm.
madly in love.
oh yeah,
They have like a dream relationship. So she's
Yeah.
getting the positive benefits of it. And in aspects, he only has a sextiles from it. It has no negative aspects. So
Yeah.
poor Diana got the bad end of it, but he is
Yeah.
capable of being
Right.
romantic and very much in love with his
oh
partner.
yeah. And also with the Pluto series, because it said he can be almost suffocating and caring for who, because Pluto takes it deep,
Yeah.
whatever Pluto touches.
Right. You could imagine if
Kids,
the king
know.
is interested in you, then he's gonna put everything into protecting you.
Yeah, yeah.
And look, they're working together in a sextile. How beautiful. Pluto and Venus and Neptune. Wow.
Yeah. It's
Hmm.
interesting. Sometimes love can make people do things that are a little bit different, and it can inspire just something different to happen, that Uranus in the 11th house might be the trajectory just from feeling love.
And maybe that Chiron in the 5th, because I was thinking of, I don't know if y'all remember when they were on him and Diana were on some kind of interview when they first got married, and the person asked, are you in love? And she said yes, and he said, oh, well, whatever love means.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my
wow.
God.
Oh,
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
So,
Mm.
I don't
Right.
know.
He may have had a hard time feeling that emotion because of his relationship with his mom and being held back and, all
I
of
think he
that,
just had to marry her. I don't think he
and
was
then had to marry her.
Yeah,
And
he
then, of
wasn't
course, it's
really
going to
in
make
love
you
with her.
feel all these different things. Yeah.
And the pressure
Definitely
came,
in love.
from how I understand it, the pressure came mostly from his father to marry Diana. But for him too, it's especially frustrating because like that Neptune Venus combination, like I said, it's very romantic. And for him to
Yeah.
not be able to live his romance and marry someone he's not in love with must have
Right.
been very difficult for him.
Yeah.
It's not like he's cold and callous around love and doesn't care. He
Yeah.
would care about whoever he loves.
And he was wounded. Yeah.
Yeah.
The fourth house can be also an indication of where all our feelings are. our
Mm.
emotions, and there's a lot in there, actually. The Sun, Mercury, South Node, Venus, and Neptune.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
yeah, a whole lot, a whole lot. And Scorpio is an intense energy. So, even having his sun there brings that Scorpio intensity into his chart too.
Yeah.
But also the fourth house gives you that sense of family and home, or he had that,
Yeah.
I guess all that was important. So yeah, you're right, April. It is a perfect chart for somebody born, into his circumstance, which I cannot imagine.
Mhm.
It's interesting to think, that being royalty isn't always just like awesome,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of
The things
indication
you
of
have to give up
wounding.
to have that. Yeah.
Exactly. There's a lot of
Yeah.
sacrifice.
Or we get sold on the fairy tale, but the people
Yeah,
who are actually living it they're suffering. They don't even get to be themselves in any way. And
right.
that's a sad situation. That was what was so hard for Diana. It's like all of a sudden
Right. And
all her
everybody
freedom was
saw
taken away.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's become somebody completely different from who she really was. And that was painful.
Um,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, I think, we did cover his chart pretty thoroughly.
All right. I just wanted to add that I noticed that transiting Pluto is going through his sixth house. I know that we're not really looking at transits, but this the house of health, and adding to this need to find a cure for something, maybe because he might be suffering. His health might be suffering. So,
Yeah, I know we're not doing transits, but as you mentioned it, I'm wondering when it gets to that fifth degree before it leaves the sixth house, what will happen?
right, right. It could be something to look into, to keep an eye on.
All right, well, it's great looking at his chart.
That was awesome.
Yeah,
Yep.
thanks everyone.
All
Thanks.
right.